Hi, welcome to Scriptures Unveiled. Today we're going to talk about the spiritual definition of human consciousness, the divine consciousness, the perceived separated ego, and the divine ego. So it's going to be a little deep.
Yes.
So we'll try to get all this in. But the human consciousness basically is our human side. And it's seeing ourselves from the human perspective, focused on the outward, not aware of our divinity that's within us. And it's actually, there's no reality beyond this natural realm. So within our human consciousness is both, though, actually the divine ego and a separated ego.
True. The human consciousness does have, I want to say, two components that exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that first component is your divine ego. So the divine ego itself is not bad. It is not our enemy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to really define it, the divine ego is pretty much an expression of our humanity in this natural life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the natural part of our human experiences. You know, it's the divine ego that is the soul of our creativity. And it serves us, you know, and it protects us, but in a healthy manner,
Right.
you know, in this lifetime. It's very healthy,
Yeah.
the divine ego.
Yeah, definitely. It's there's no separation in, from the divine. There's a oneness, in that divine ego.
Yes.
So where in the next ego that we're going to get to is that perceived, and I say perceived, separated ego. And we're all born into this world, with this perceived separated ego.
Yeah, I like
but
that.
But also with the divine consciousness within, which we'll also get to. But this perceived, and we call it perceived because it's an illusion.
Yes.
So it's not really
It's
real.
false.
It's false.
Yes.
So and we believing that we're separated, from God, that He's out here, and it's really not true. And so we cannot ever be separated from God.
Absolutely.
So because God is spirit and He's in us,
Yes.
and He's one with us, we just are not aware of it in this separated, perceived separated ego.
Absolutely.
And so, so the separated ego relies basically on our intellect, and it runs on instinct. So it's kind of like if you look at just instinctive things that we just do. And it's defending its existence by any means necessary. So it likes to defend, to continue in a false separation from God. So its reality is outside of our divine self.
Yes.
So, so there's a lot that goes to this perceived, the separated ego. It also rules and leads over our divine consciousness,
It does.
or our spiritual mind, which is in us. So to control our life through the intellect. And the perceived separated ego does not make a good leader.
Not at all. And so getting into the divine consciousness, because that perceived separated ego does keep us with just in that human consciousness where we're just primarily seeing ourselves as humanity. Mm-hmm. So going to the divine consciousness is our Christ mind. It is our intuitive heart. It's the inward parts of us. It's the inner knowing. Mm-hmm. It is the God within us that's being expressed in our uniqueness. So the divine consciousness is the leader, because we are to be led from within.
Yes. Not led, without outside.
Exactly. And I like what you said about the separated or the perceived separated ego, because like you said, it likes to lead, and we'll find out it's a very poor leader. Mm-hmm. And so when we're looking at the divine consciousness, we're looking at that higher awareness, that higher consciousness within us, that is born, or everyone in the world has this divine consciousness. We're born with it. Mm-hmm. It's just overseeded by the perceived separated ego.
Yeah, because most people are focused outwardly.
Yes, and you can't see
We're
or
conditioned
experience.
to see outward.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
Very
Conditioned to see outward. So inwardly, we can't see that divine consciousness that we all have.
Which is
at
that
birth.
inner knowing.
Yes,
Yes.
that intuitive, that inward reality.
It's not, doesn't rely or it's not dependent on the five senses.
Yes, it's not dependent on our intellect. You know, it's not dependent, like you said, on the five outward senses. Yes.
Yeah. So then there is an inner senses.
Yes.
Because I heard you say outward senses, because it's true, there is
Yes.
inner senses.
And that's our intuitive.
Right.
That is our divine.
And that's that divine consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when the separated ego, that's an illusion, basically. So how this comes together is when that's crucified, basically within us, and it is a type of crucifixion, because what happens with the perceived separated ego is that it actually is a veil that's in between the human consciousness and the divine consciousness, and when they come together as one, that's when we start to flow, in that divine ego.
Absolutely.
So, but that separated ego has to actually be crucified.
Yes.
And that's that picture that Jesus went through on the cross, where the veil was rent.
Yes.
And that's exactly what it was rent. Why it was cut in half is, or what sliced right down the middle, was because it was to bring those two consciousnesses now into oneness.
Yes. And when that veil is rent, you're so right. We can bridge over where the human consciousness and the divine consciousness become one.
Yes.
I call it the marriage supper of the Lamb.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yes, because the perceived separated ego has been bent and crucified.
Right.
So now you have that oneness.
Oneness.
With the divine and the human consciousness, and that is the reality of who we truly are. And that's when life starts to be lived effortlessly.
Right.
It's just a flow.
Yeah.
You know?
And so we were going to bring in real quick an example of what it looks like. And for me, I was thinking about it in that it's really the picture of that ego that bows or bends, that no longer leads but now serves. This picture we talked about, the veil, is now, for me, it's made me where I'm kind of neutral. Like I don't see through the eyes of right and wrong, good or evil. It's like I take no sides. There's no sides to take.
Yeah.
And both sides have equal value. You kind of see them both equal.
You're in the neutral zone.
It's like a neutral zone.
Yes.
And that's just the best way I can explain that.
That's good.
So for you?
Yeah, and for me, when that union happened, that human consciousness, that divine consciousness coming as one, and I'm flowing in that, there's no more me trying to seek peace, happiness, or love. I come into the union where I am peace. I am love.
Yes.
Like literally.
The I am.
I am. I come into the awareness of I am that I am, because there's no more separation.
Right.
So who I am is no longer defined by anything outward. No outward circumstances or relationships, no matter how good or bad I may perceive it to be. And when those two came together as one, when I came into I am love, I learned to literally love myself unconditionally within myself.
Within yourself.
It wasn't like an outward God or perceived separation of the ego outwardly trying to love me. It was me within myself, unconditionally accepting and loving myself.
Right. Yeah, and that's beautiful.
It is.
So next time we're going to bring up Peter and several other things to kind of give an example of how this bridging process happens.
Yes.
So make sure that you hit the like button.
And please be sure to subscribe and make a comment.